everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Musical Mind. I would like to welcome today the one and only Will Turpin, a member of Collective Soul, Music Legends. Welcome, Will.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
No problem. It's an honor to have you. So I guess the current story for you guys is obviously the documentary is up and running. Give me a word. How are things going with that? I mean, I got a few questions about that, but how's the reception?
Yeah, I'm getting great response from everybody. Even our closest friends are, talking about how much they learned about us. I think we all kind of learned a bit about ourselves too, or remembered something we had forgotten, one or the other. Especially between me, Dean, and Ed.
Was there a lot of things that you're like, I hadn't thought about that in years, or maybe revisiting certain aspects of the band's history made you reconsider things or put things in a new perspective just by revisiting them?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. And then some of those things are always going to be my own little personal perspective. That's just the way I remember it.
Right.
And we knew going in because we talk all the time about what we remember and what we don't remember. So we knew that a few of us had varying versions of what we remember.
Sure.
But yeah, it's what an interesting thing to do is be part of the production company that puts together your own documentary. And it goes back to our childhood. So it goes, we're talking about, this thing goes back over 40 years.
Right, right. I got to tell you, on a personal note, it was fun watching the documentary because I live in Philadelphia now, and I've lived all over the place. But I grew up I'm from Georgia, outside of Atlanta, up in Roswell, up by
Okay.
Marietta.
All right.
So just it's been so long since I've lived down there, and just being immersed in just the accent and everything, we just kind of felt like home. It was just fun just to hearing everybody just kind of like being home again. But it was really a lot of good insights and just a lot of things I didn't know about the band. So I really found it. I stress that people should check it out because it was not the typical like here's this hit and here's this hit. It was a lot more of a personal recollection of just your lives.
Yeah, we wanted it to be some kind of twist on, just the basic history lesson type documentary. We
Right.
wanted it to be something different. And the opportunity there when we were at Elvis's house,
Hmm.
record the record Here to Eternity. Well, then we thought, well, this is grounds right here. This is interesting. We're in literally Elvis's Palm Springs estate. So we grounded it off of that. And so you got to see us in today's world creating music, being a band, actually being a band. And then then you start going, okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the 70s here when we were kids.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the documentary vibe kind of takes over. Yeah, we were real proud of that. So it wasn't just a chronological history lesson. It
No, it
was
was very entertaining to watch. It really
yeah.
was. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. And speaking of Here to Eternity, like you guys are that record is as fresh as something from 25 years ago. I mean, the band really sounds good. Ed's voice sounds the same somehow. You guys, the production's even better. If anything, your bass on the last album seems more up in the mix than it did in the early days. It's really strong effort, which is not always the case for a legacy band.
Yeah, I mean, we started out with that. You learned a little bit about the acumen that we kind of grew up with my father's studio and stuff.
Right.
Man, we started out as creators, and in our 50s. Ed just turned 61. Uh, we're not we're not done yet. It's still the same energy, it's still the same feelings we got way back then, and
Right.
we're still about the music. We're about the song. We're about the creation process. It's not about, you know, it's not about being the coolest. It's
Right.
not certainly not about being on MTV anymore. Uh,
Right.
and we feel like we're on top of our game making music, man. I appreciate it.
No, I think you very much are. It really comes across as people who still have passion for it. That's for sure. Now, as far as you go, like, have you like on some of the new tracks, like "Bluer Than So Blue," or am I getting the title right?
Yeah.
Did you play with a pick in the early days?
I always played with whatever felt good with the
So you
song.
did go
I
back and
played with my fingers and my pick all the
okay.
way back to the earlier records. I would have been I guarantee it was about 50-50 on every record, man, going back 30 years. I bet it's about 50-50. It just depends on what I'm going for.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes it just needs that attack and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But like
Okay.
Blue or So Blue is a really good pick riff thing. And
Totally.
it ended up being like the intro to the song. So it's a cool little riff that me and Johnny kind of came up with there.
What as far as your equipment, like, do you how much is that evolved? How much is your setup evolved? Like instrument wise, amps? Are you guys going to direct in studio? Are you guys still miking amps? What's the?
Yeah, we might mic some guitar amps every now and then, but for the most part, it's all direct.
Mhm.
We play as a band. We want to feel like it's a band in the room with a drum set. But man, bass, I stopped miking up a bass cabinet so long ago. It's pitiful. I usually send two signals, two different direct signals. Same
Right.
thing I do live. I don't mic. I mean, I've got my bass cabinets on stage, so me and Johnny feel like we're being a real rhythm section in a real
Sure.
room. But I send two direct signals to front of house. It's just for me for bass, it's the way to go. Now we do mic some guitar cabinets on stage, but yeah, man, I've started out with P basses. So most going back to 95, most I would say over half of the stuff is P basses, and man, my arsenal of guitars and basses has really obviously I got over the years I've collected a few nice pieces, but man, I just got some Warriors that I lean on. I got two P basses that were custom made for me in '97. I've got a '65 Jazz that was my father's.
Nice.
I've got a Stingray that Eddie Van Halen gave me. There's a Rickenbacker I pull out every now and then. I use this Epiphone hollow body on like three or four of the songs from more than or from Here to Eternity. So it just depends, man. I look at everything as an instrument and something different, and once we kind of get figure out where the song's going to go, I just pick up a bunch of different basses, and then I know I can kind of get to where I want to get just from starting off somewhere it's kind of close.
Collective Soul was an interesting band because you guys really bridged, for me personally, the gap between the grunge of the 90s and your rock in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and again, just trying to really, it's about supporting songs, and
Right.
even when we were young, we knew that the strength of the song is really everything that your career is going to depend on, and I think something we were thinking was actually right because here we are 31 years later and we're jamming in Houston tonight with
Right.
uh, with friends that we've known for 30 years. Our Lady Peace and Live.
In the early days, especially, like I know at some point you started your own label, and but like the Atlantic days, did you have autonomy on picking singles? Like one of my favorite songs has always been December.
Mhm.
But if I was in a band and I've got to pick a single,
You
I
wouldn't pick
it's
that
my
one?
favorite song, but I'm like, is just picking a G chord as an intro, is that enough of a hook to start a single?
Yeah, we had a lot of autonomy because of how we started. We started off on an independent label. Atlantic Records didn't feel like they did anything to develop us.
Mm.
The band came in as is, and we had sold 35,000 copies on a independent record label. And even the way we asked them, okay, because we were kind of worried about the first record not being a great representation of the band because of the way it was put together.
Hmm.
And so the Atlantic Records was like, well, we want to release the first record as is, and keep the ball rolling. It's a snowball going downhill. We want to ride it all the way down to the bottom of the hill.
That's got to be rare for a record company.
Super rare, right? And then we were like, okay, if that's the deal, then you're gonna have to allow us to be able to go into the studio as soon as we can, and then release the second record as soon as we can. And that's why the second record came out in 1995.
Right.
The first record was out in 94. So we were right back in the studio working on it. Now you get to where, okay, now we got to pick a single coming off the second record. Gel technically would have been the first single, but it was really it's kind of like a bridge song because it was on the Jerky Boy soundtrack. So it's a little bit on the
Never
soundtrack.
about that movie in forever. Yeah.
Exactly. And somehow, Ed writes lyrics about all humankind coming together as one. and somehow it ends up on some kind of comedy soundtrack. But whatever, we'll take it because it ended up, helping get the song out
Yeah.
there and became the bridge between the a little bit of a bridge as far as radio not getting, not losing track of who we were. Um,
Right.
so we released the song, but yeah. Um, so the Atlantic Records had nothing to do with this, man. They big support from them, and they did their part of the deal. But we were always able to pretty much, by the time we got to Dosage, they were really trying to get their opinions in there a lot more. By the time we get to the fourth record, but the second record, I think they were still like, it doesn't matter what these guys do. We've already made so much money based on how much time we've spent.
Right.
Let them do whatever they want to, and our consensus was December as the single, but I've told this story before, and it's interesting you mentioned it. I thought it was a mistake to have that as the first.
Yeah.
Shows you what I know. Ended up being number one rock track of 1995.
Yeah. Well, what was I about to say about that? Talking about, you mentioned the first album, and I know this is a story you've told a billion times, but even pre-internet days, it was known in the press that you guys had said the first album was basically a demo. Um, but for those of us, those in the audience who don't realize what that would have been like in the '90s, early '90s, was Ed working in his basement with a 4 track? I mean, what was he doing to lay down that stuff?
It wasn't. It's also a collection, right? It's not just one period. It's a collection of songs from a year and a half period, I would say.
Okay.
So if you go back and listen, you can tell the ones where there's real drums and it sounds a little bit more like a band. Love Lifted Me, Good Night, Good Guy.
Right.
And then the ones that where Ed is Ed and maybe one or two other person assisting him. Ed's pretty much starting these songs out with maybe a drum machine and a keyboard sound. So some of those songs, there was always somebody helping him a little bit, but it was definitely a solo effort. And some of those songs were intended for it to be on a songwriter demo for Ed's songwriting. So half of those songs were intended, recorded as a band. The other half were kind of intended for something else. And then the idea was to put it all together on a record and see if we can get a record deal. Well, we put it all on a record and Shine started blowing up.
Right.
And then the rest is history. Yeah.
Now, as far as I wanted to ask you, I mean, here to Eternity is just last year. Do you guys Are you already looking forward to what's next in the pipeline, or is it, the documentary
Yeah,
came out
we're
in
still
July? Are
creating
you
it,
taking
man.
time off?
No, we've got stuff lined up. We've got stuff lined up. We don't really ever stop. So yeah, we're trying to figure out what to do next summer and releasing a new record called Touch and Go in the spring next year. So
Oh, it's called Touch and Go.
yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you usually pick out the name that far in advance? Like, is it a song title, or is it a vision for an album?
It's
Or
it's it's one of the lyrics in one of the songs.
gotcha,
Yeah, and it's really not that far ahead because at this point we're mastering and putting
gotcha.
together album artwork and such. So
Oh, okay. So it's in the can pretty well.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's great. Now, I want everybody to know. I mean, obviously, your website, but what's the best place for people? I know they can buy the documentary on the website. What are other places they can
Yeah,
rent,
I
stream,
mean, you can
whatever?
the streaming platforms all have it. Amazon Prime has it, Apple has it.
Well, that's good. Well, I would highly recommend people go out and watch because it's a great watch and it's not the typical documentary. It's not Spinal Tap with a straight face, and it's not here's the engineer talking about how he mic'd the cabinets. It's
Yeah.
definitely more interesting than
And
that.
we kind of stayed away from all that. There's so much you could do with a career like this. Even after watching the hour 45 minutes, I'm like, God, we left out so many stories people would want to hear, but you can't really put them all in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was well done. Well, I certainly appreciate it. And I am looking forward to the new album, and anytime you want to fill us in on the up and comings of Collective Soul, we will be more than happy to talk about it. And I've really enjoyed your guys' music.
Much appreciated, man. Thanks for your service.
Oh yeah, thanks. It's a long time ago, but I appreciate you too, Will. All right,
Yeah, man. Thanks,
we'll
buddy.
talk again. Bye.
See you.